Welcome back to the Alec Lewis Show. I am your host, Alec Lewis. This is episode 104, recording on Sunday morning, August 17th, the day after the Vikings lost to the New England Patriots in the second preseason game. Going to do a roster projection for you. Did one of these last year on the podcast. Think you guys enjoyed it. I've written a ton of them. Probably not going to have one this week given the story schedule. So thought, why not, in podcast form, go down this roster position group by position group, especially after Saturday's game, and just break it down that way. So that's what we're going to do today. Give me your feedback on what you think of it, just so I know in the future whether we're doing it or not. If you're new here and you're watching on YouTube, hit that subscribe button. Helps us out a ton. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify or iHeart, wherever you get your podcast, you can rate and review and all that good stuff. We appreciate that as well. This show is presented by First Resource Bank. If you haven't heard of it, I mean, I'd be shocked, but it's a member FDIC bank in the Minneapolis area. They've got branches all over the place, and it's run by some Vikings fans. I mean, Tim Siegley, Aaron Siegley, Charlie Anderson, they're texting pregame. They want to know who's playing. That's the operation that they run. They care about the community. So all seriousness, the information of First Resource is in the description below, and you will not be disappointed by the customer service, the online banking platform, which is just really easy to use. So please go check out First Resource Bank. I write for The Athletic. That's my day job. This is the side hustle. Do a couple of these a week, but write pretty much every day at The Athletic. Comprehensive coverage of camp. A ton of features that I've been grinding away on for a long time coming, beginning this week and in the lead up to the season. So you can get a subscription. It's like costs a cup of coffee or something. And hopefully I won't disappoint you with the amount of work that I'm trying to put in to give you guys as good a look as I possibly can. Before we get into the 53, I will say people have been trolling me about this. If you're watching on YouTube, you see the wall in the background. Like, I live in a loft. I don't know. It looks stonish. It's old school. It's retro. Whatever you want to say. So you can make fun of me. That's par for the course. Those who know me know that is invited at every step. But I promise I'm not like throwing stuff at the walls after parties and stuff like that. At least I don't think so. All right. 53 man roster projection for the Minnesota Vikings. Let's get right into it. We will begin with the position that you guys probably are familiar with. It's called quarterback. I've got 3 quarterbacks on this roster. Right now, the projection would have it as J.J. McCarthy, Brett Rippon, and Max Brosmer. I'll go through individually, including Sam Howell. I'll go through all these guys and give you some of my notes and nuggets after watching some of the film and talking to people and et cetera. We'll start with J.J. McCarthy. He had his best practice of training camp Thursday. Like, I recorded on Wednesday with Ben Lieber. If you guys listen to the podcast religiously, you probably listen, and it was an up and down review. And then that published probably Thursday morning, and then that Thursday against the Patriots, and I've joked about this on the radio, but like I was like, I'll watch the defense today, and then as I'm watching the defense, I start to hear buzz from the other side of the field that JJ is just ripping the ball and accurate and dialed in the red zone. So I moved over, and you could just see the composure and the confidence. So for JJ, for me, like as I approach this week, and there's only now a few weeks until this season really ramps, like, can J.J. McCarthy build off what was very clearly his best day of training camp? And you could even sense, like, afterward in Kevin O'Connell's tone, in J.J. McCarthy's tone, he talked to the media afterward, like, you could sense how, I don't know, like how much joy they had with that day. They did some game plan prep, kind of to simulate what it'd be like in a real week of a season for that Thursday against the Patriots. And things just went really well. And then, talking to people, rehearsing it, like, or I guess planning for this and just to try to gather as much as I can for stories. Like, it sounded like the run lanes were there. It sounded as if they felt really, really good about what they saw. Now, again, and I've said this too, like, I have questions about what the Patriots are going to be outside of Travion Henderson and Drake May. and Milton Williams and a couple guys. So I do have questions about that team. But to see JJ have that day in that setting, which Kevin O'Connell places more emphasis on those joint practices than any other data point in training camp. Like, that was just really, really good to see. So for JJ, it's just, can he build off that? Like, I haven't asked anybody about the third preseason game. I don't know if I guess I'd be fairly surprised if he plays in that game, mostly because they don't want to put him out there unless he's with the starting group that he can continue to establish rapport with and to make sure he's protected and has guys who are going to catch the football. So the team potentially wanting to hold out the starters to ensure health would probably affect JJ. And he's gotten a lot of work. I mean, he really did this past week. So can he build off Thursday? That's really the question in my mind as I show up to practice on Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday. Sam Howell, the interception on Saturday was rough. I mean, there is no other way around it. Now, the caveats are as follows. The Vikings offense was the number 2 offense going up against the Patriots first team. Mike Vrabel kind of decided that he didn't see enough of what he wanted to see out of his Patriots ones, and so they played the ones. But, you know, even with that disparity in probably the talent level, you cannot spin out of what was interior pressure and then try to throw the football away and hang it up, it backed up in your own end zone. Like, it just can't happen no matter. I mean, Sam Howell's a guy who's played against one. So regardless of the surroundings, it's just not a play that you can make. I'd say there was a Lucky Jackson drop on the left sideline where does Sam Howell's quarterback rating and stat line and counting statistics look better if some of that stuff happens and maybe they build some momentum? Like, absolutely, and you can't take that stuff for granted, but you're not going to get every catch. That's just the case. And the other thing that stood out both in real time and just it felt validated a little bit going through the film of just Sam Howell, who had had a great week prior to Saturday. I felt like I might have said this before the game. Like, you got the sense that he was in some ways turning a corner in this new and very different system than anything he'd been in the NFL previously. And then the comfort specifically with his feet in the pocket and where his eye placement was, it just did not look rhythmic and fluid. And I mean, it's not a total shock. Like, Sam Howell's arm talent has never been a question. It's the part of the quarterback position that we never talk enough about, or that I feel like I say, I'm not going to say we, that's probably not fair. Like, I feel like the quarterback position is so much evaluated and analyzed of athleticism, arm strength. And for me, the more I've been around the NFL and the more I talk to people and the more I watch it, like, it is a mind position. It is, do you have the mental aptitude and wherewithal to understand a system and apply it in real time in 40-second bursts? And then do you have the mental capability in split seconds to evaluate the picture of what you're seeing pre-snap and verify what it is post-snap and be able to see things on the fly with pass rush moving at you? Like, that is the mental capability and the mental kind of horsepower required is, for me, like, that's often the separator, whether it's you think about Drew Brees, whether you think about Joe Burrow, like, those guys' ability to see the picture and react in split seconds and make decisions on the fly, like, that is often kind of why guys succeed or fail. And with Sam Howell, again, he's got a lot of the other stuff, but that remains a question mark for me. And so again, I fully, like, he had a great week in the lead up to Saturday's game, and the ancillary factors are worth mentioning. But just like seeing plays like that, it's hard to really buy in to wanting to project him as the number 2. That's just where I'm at right now, and it's speculative. It's kind of me just evaluating from afar, doing my job. But that's what I'd say. Brett Rippon, thought he was like fine. It wasn't perfect. He was sped up a couple times. There was leakage with the front, which affected him certain times, but he made throws. And then you just hear behind the scenes, like, he has probably the most advanced knowledge of the system, both because of how long he's been in the league and how long he's been in the building. And so makes him a viable option. Now we'll get to, as I finish all the quarterback evaluation, like I'm going to get to the having Rippon as the number 2 in that conversation. But that's just my take on Brett. And then Max Brosmer, I mean, part of the reason I mentioned a lot of the mental and the aptitude and the post-snap processing and all that stuff is because that's where with Max Brosmer, that's kind of his secret sauce in my eyes of like he has an ability to decipher the picture in split second form in a way that I just don't know how many backups across the league really. Like you have your like the Nick Mullins-ish, the Josh Dobbs, like those guys have traits, they can do certain things, but they just seem to kind of short circuit at times in the speed of what the snap in, snap out pressure kind of is. And though Max Brosmer has not been perfect, and let's make sure that to note that it has not been perfect. But that's where Max just kind of feels like he separates himself. And he throws with anticipation all the time, which for the uninitiated, you're like, what are you talking about? Like, if you just pause the film, when he's breaking his hands to throw the football, the receiver is rarely out of his break. And so it's just like a trust of throwing to certain spots where you have to almost, like, it is blind trust to almost make that happen. And then in my job doing the reporting, the smarts behind the scenes, like he was a biomedical sciences major. He has an understanding of the, like at Minnesota, they overloaded his plate with kills at the line of scrimmage, with changes for the run game. Like these are not new responsibilities for him. So he just is very intriguing. Now, again, to segue, you guys are probably sitting there. We're like, okay, Alec, do you have him as the QB2? I mean, like, just my opinion, that's a very bold bet to have 2 guys as your 1 and 2 who have never played in real NFL game. I mean, that is an immense faith in your ability to teach and your ability to coach and your ability to scheme it up and your receivers and your O-line and maybe Kevin O'Connell, who does have the utmost faith in what they do, like will have a level of confidence to allow that to be the case. Or maybe you have Brett Rippon and Max Brosmer and continue to develop Max over the course of the year to where you feel good about him in the back half as the number 2. But I mean, again, it is that just like the summary for me is like that is a bold bet to try to make. I mean, the other question is like, who else exists? Like, you're just not finding guys on the street at this point in the calendar who have the mental wherewithal and makeup like that you'd probably want from a just reliability standpoint for that spot. Like, I mean, certain names get thrown around. Like, are the Falcons going to want to trade Kirk Cousins? And if they are the Vikings going to want to pay a handsome amount to acquire a guy like him? I've said it in the past. I fully believe it. If the opportunity was presented to Kirk in terms of wanting to come here in whatever role, I think he would be more than willing to do that because he loves the people here. He trusts the system. He loves the town, all that stuff. But like the other names that get thrown around of like a Ryan Tannehill. Does Ryan Tannehill want to come back and be a backup? Like, those are very real questions. And then you're sifting into the pond of the Josh Dobbs, the Taylor Heineke's, guys who, similar to Sam Howell and or older than Sam Howell, like they have the proclivity to combust at times, similar to the way we saw Sam Howell on Saturday. So that's kind of where I'm at with the quarter, and I'm going longer on the quarterback position than I will go even remotely close on any other spot. But that's just kind of my perception of where the quarterback room, like that's what I project is you have J.J. McCarthy, Brett Rippon, Max Brosmer, maybe with the potential that you find someone on the outside and can slide Brett Rippon to the practice squad or something like that. But Max Brosmer, at this point, if you are waiving him, like there are too many people who are going to be coveting a quarterback who can see the field that it would be tough to get him to the practice squad. So that'll do it for quarterback, and we'll segue to running back. All right, we're going to have three guys at the running back spot, 1 at the fullback spot. Jordan Mason, Aaron Jones, CJ Ham, Xavier Scott. I'll start with Aaron Jones. You saw this week against the Patriots in joint practices, like the pass catching ability is undeniable. His role in the screen game this year could be pretty fun to watch if the offensive line can get out the way they've shown an ability to. Jordan Mason, like I've said it all the time, people are going to get caught up in the body type, but his trait that I just marvel at is the vision, the ability to press a hole and then find the third or fourth cutback, again in split second decision making instances. So I mean that 1-2 tandem should be pretty exciting to watch. Xavier Scott besting Ty Chandler. I mean, look, Ty Chandler with the ball in his hands can be dynamic. It's just never clicked. Everything else, and Xavier Scott is converted receiver, just kind of an interesting player, bigger body as well. So have him in, and then CJ Ham. I mean, look, I think in the first few weeks of the season, without Jordan Addison, we'll see about the wide receiver depth in general, and we'll get to there right in a second. But like leaning into 21 personnel with 2 running backs, including CJ Ham, leaning into 12 personnel, the bigger, groupings and just like kind of mashing downhill, knowing how much defense are going to allocate multiple defenders to Justin Jefferson. Like that seems like a very real strategy that this team can take. And so, the 4 in the backfield is the pick there. Receiver, I've got like 6 penciled in here. The questions become really with the depth. Like Justin Jefferson, I mean, I don't need to tell you guys anything about him. The hope would be, like, it sounds like they hope that he starts to ramp up soon. I mean, he's been out there on the practice field, hopping around, running around, kind of messing around with the releases. But he hasn't like really participated fully in any of the drills. Like Kevin O'Connell talked Saturday night after the game about it. He sounded fairly optimistic. They're not going to rush it, being that it's a hamstring and they just don't want the soft tissue to return at any point in the season. But it'll be interesting and it's worth watching. Like I will say this, when they first announced that, like maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, I didn't feel like it was going to be like a 2-day thing and he'd be right back. Like I expected at the time, they were going to allow him a very long runway to ramp up. But now we're getting to the juncture and the point at which, like, okay, it's worth identifying when he does come back, because even though, like, from a report standpoint with JJ McCarthy, like Justin's so good that it's not going to matter probably, but you just like to see him start to work his way back soon. Jordan Addison may have been the best offensive player in the joint practices among the two teams. Like he just obliterated the Patriots corners, and Kevin O'Connell made a very astute point. A lot of those reps were coming against Carlton Davis, a physical corner who has given the Vikings receivers trouble and gave them trouble last year and in years past in Detroit. And so to see Jordan Addison kind of execute some of like his release package against a guy like Carlton Davis, very good sign. Jalen Naylor, so he jammed his hand Thursday in the joint practice of the Patriots. When Kevin O'Connell was asked about it Saturday night, he said, quote, "I definitely don't feel overly concerned about a long-term thing." So, I mean, it feels like it's going to be a little bit of a short-term thing. Now, the question is, like, how long what does that mean? Is he going to be ready for week 1? If he's not ready for week 1, it only underscores, italicizes, bolds my belief in that they need another experienced receiver, which we'll get to in a second. Ty Felton, as a gunner, could be a very talented player in this first year. As a receiver, he has the athleticism and the size to make it work, from a route running polish, from a reliability securing the ball every single throw. Like I would have questions there. It's felt like Kevin O'Connell and this staff wants to see him as a kick returner, but the return game was not something he did a lot in college. And I get why he is a sensible option there. It's because his body type can probably withstand some of the bumps and bruises that kick return play, the dynamic kick return play, is probably going to bring this year for whoever's doing the kick returning. But then, like, on Saturday, he has a rep, he fumbles on the play. Like, I mean, you're just placing a lot on a young guy there. And so, we'll see with Ty Felton. Again, if he has to be an every down receiver to start this season, that was not the spot that the staff wanted him to be in. It just wasn't. And so, I mean, really, like I mentioned those four guys. If Addison's suspension removes him from the 53 to start, I mean, then you got three really guys that seem to be shoo-ins. After that, I mean, Tim Jones has flashed a little bit in like the last couple of weeks, but I'm not sure enough to make the roster. Lucky Jackson had multiple drops Saturday. He had probably been the leader in the clubhouse, but you can't be dropping passes on the sideline like he was. Thayer Thomas has been around, knows the system, can be slithery at times, but I mean, you're betting a lot, on Thayer Thomas. If he's on the roster and competing meaningfully. And then like Jayshon Jones, I mean, you saw even on the even on the play before the 3rd and 17 before Max Brosmer completed the pass to Jayshon Jones on Saturday, like Jayshon just gets totally knocked off his spot down the field, and then two receivers are running in the same area. There was the other play where Kevin O'Connell on the broadcast, which was exceptional, by the way. If you missed it, it's on the Vikings YouTube. I'd highly recommend going to watch that, because Kevin can explain the intent of the play in real time in a way that you rarely see. But there was a down the field throw where Max Brosmer kind of missed Jayshon Jones, and Kevin was pretty I don't know if critical, but just like he kept saying, like, get your eyes back around and go find the ball. Jayshon Jones has been solid in training camp, but to expect him to make the 53 would be a lot. Miles Price had a great day as a returner on Saturday, and he probably, edged his way into the mix. But like I see the receiver spot as needing an external addition, at least one, and possibly two. I mean, the Rondale Moore season-ending knee didn't help. We'll see about Jalen Naylor. But just regardless, like, it feels as if that is a place where this is why you save the cap space that a lot of people had questions about. Like, why do they have so much? You just never know when you might need it. And the optionality to have it in a situation like this is part of why they do. So, I mean, we'll see who that ad becomes. I mean, really the question oftentimes is like, okay, you hear the names tossed around of Tyler Boyd, Amari Cooper, Gabe Davis, Odell Beckham. Like, the two questions with that crop of players that I have to be mindful of, and that I think, like, it's just worth mentioning, is like, how in shape are some of these guys? Like, have they been working out? And that's a very real question. Then how quickly can they learn an offense that is as complex as this one is? And so finding a guy who has the schematic familiarity / the capability to be able to learn quickly and the willingness to want to learn quickly, like, those are key facets to who they bring in here, but they're just not a lot of options. Tight end, pretty self-explanatory. TJ Hockenson, Josh Oliver, Ben Urasek. Hockenson on Wednesday was one of the better Vikings offensive players. He had a great day. You saw it. I mean, catches on passes that were a little high. Just moving well across the field. That was good to see. Josh Oliver is who Josh Oliver is. He will mow you over in the run game, and he's probably an underrated pass catcher. And then Ben Urasek, the undrafted guy from Stanford and Georgia, the Vikings brought him in thinking that it'd be a competition with Gavin Bartholomew, the 6th or 7th round pick from Pitt. Bartholomew's back injury has sidelined him, will continue to sideline him for an extended period. So I've got Urasek in there. The O-line group, I've got 10. That's a lot, but it's a good group. Darisaw, Donovan Jackson, Ryan Kelly, Will Fries, Brian O'Neill, Blake Brandell, Justin School, Michael Juergens, Walter Rouse, and then Joe Hubers, the UDFA. Believe he played a little bit at Wisconsin, and I should probably have that right. But just a couple quick hits for me. Donovan Jackson, I thought similar to J.J. McCarthy. Like, he'd probably been fairly up and down, specifically in pass pro in the first few weeks of training camp. But Thursday felt like that was his best day. A lot of reps against Christian Barmore, who's done it in the NFL. So that's good to see. Can he build off it? Similar to J.J. McCarthy. Again, like, that's the question I have with Donovan Jackson moving forward. Darisaw, it feels like he's ahead of schedule. I mean, the team has been reticent to give any timeline because they just want it to go at the speed at which it should go. And I always felt like they're going to take it slow, but Darisaw has progressed nicely, and I mean, we'll see how early he can return if it's week one. That'd be obviously fantastic for the team. And then, I mean, look, like the second team has been solid. Juergens, Rouse, you want to continue to see those guys. Blake Brandel has had a good camp. I've heard that from people internally. And then Joe Huber just with an extra spot here. I don't know, to have he was a guy who I had one AFC executive right after the undrafted signing portion who was like, we like that guy. That's a good get for them. And so beyond the production that he's had, like he was also a guy who seemed to be a priority target for others. So I've got him in there. You just can't, I mean, finding UDFA interior offensive lineman who you'd have any faith in, that is a major positive. So that's 26 offensive players, if I'm not mistaken, and we'll segue to the defensive side and ramp it up with the defensive line here in a second. All right, the D line, I've got 6. This is not an easy one, maybe the most difficult on the roster. Jonathan Allen, Javon Hargrave, Harrison Phillips, Jalen Redmond, Levi Drake Rodriguez, Tyrion Ingram Dawkins, and Elijah Williams. That's 7. And you somehow got, I mean, Taki Taimani, you might even throw him in there. So that'd be 8, trying to whittle it down to 6. Very difficult. I don't know if that means like Levi Drake Rodriguez hasn't practiced over the last week. He came out of last Saturday, the first preseason game, with a bit of an injury. Does that injury remain to where you can, add another player to this roster in an Elijah Williams, the undrafted dude from Morgan State, who, I mean, Brian Flores mentioned Elijah Williams' name like 3 weeks ago in a press conference, and it just caught my ear and my intent at the time. Like he was naming off, all the guys that I just mentioned, and then he threw Elijah Williams in there. And he was like a late undrafted signing. Again, like, not a massive body type from Morgan State, but has some wiggle to him and some twitch. So, I mean, their ability to continuously find guys who even are worth talking about in the undrafted portion, like every single year like this, like maybe it's across the league. I don't really know, but it feels like they have an ability to find guys like this in a very impressive way. So whittling it down to 6, like I would say, I mean, Williams would probably be like the odd man out there, but I mean, I don't know. Maybe there's a way to get creative and you move somebody to get to find a way for 6 guys that you really like. I'd say Jalen Redmond was one of the most dominant players defensively in the joint practices. Feels like he's taken a step from a pass rush standpoint, probably learned a lot from Jonathan Allen, Javon Hargrave. And then Tyrion Ingram Dawkins, like the grades weren't great from Saturday, but I felt like he held his own against the first team offense with the Patriots. And I wrote that like he got Garrett Bradbury a couple of times, and there were some commenters that's like, yeah, like you've watched Garrett Bradbury for 3 years. What is that? But I mean, it's a starting center going up against the guy who just turned 22 years old from Georgia, like rushing from the interior. It's interesting. So Ingram Dawkins, I do feel like a couple of years from now, you might look back at a guy like him or Redmond or Levi or Elijah Williams, and it's like, man, the opportunity they had to work and learn from Jonathan Allen and Javon Hargrave, like it's probably like something that we overlook, but it's probably going to be important. So 6 there. Edge rusher, I've got 5. Grenard, Van Ginkel, Dallas Turner, Bo Richter, Gabe Murphy. I liked both the undrafted guys, Chaz Chambliss and Tyler Batty, but just feels like with the numbers on this roster and the talent, hard to find spots for them. Linebacker, Blake Cashman, Ivan Pace, Eric Wilson, Kobe King. Thought Kobe King had a pretty solid day on Saturday against the Patriots, definitely against the first team offense. He believe he had a deflection kind of early in that game. So yeah, I mean, those 4, once they let go of Brian Asamoah, which felt kind of inevitable. Honestly, for a while, even going back to last year, like those 4 seem to be shoo-ins. At corner, I have 5: Byron Murphy Jr., Isaiah Rodgers, Jeff Okudah, Zamiah Vaughn, and Mekhi Blackman. Vaughn was maybe a little bit up and down Saturday, but I just, the ball skills, the opportunity to add more, girth to his frame over time. And then just like the competitiveness and the youth, he's another UDFA who's interesting. Dwight McGlothern had a stretch at training camp where he had multiple picks in a row in certain days. But the consistency on a day-to-day for Dwight McGlothern, I'm not sure if it's been there to have enough faith to have him. I believe he was flagged on a special teams. That never helps guys out either. So then Mekhi Blackman, like he's run with like the second, third team, often kicking in to the slot and nickel. Just doesn't feel like he's like caught a wave of momentum throughout this training camp coming back from the torn ACL. And I will say, like, the depth of that room with those five, I'd be quite, you're asking a lot of the first three, including Jeff Okudah, who's gotten hurt a lot. So maybe that is another spot where an ad could make sense. Safety, I only have 4 here. Could be convinced to go to 5 and pluck from somewhere else, but Harrison Smith, Theo Jackson, Josh Metellus, and Jay Ward. Khalif Halesi, who is a converted corner, has had some really nice days in training camp. He had 2 picks the first preseason game against the Texans. Didn't do a ton Saturday. And again, like if you have him or you have a Tavier Thomas for special teams, wouldn't shock me. But it's just, I feel like Jay Ward's had a pretty good camp. He missed a tackle in the red zone against Efton Chisholm III on Saturday. But just all in all, not going to go more there. And then special teams, the surprise for me, I'm going to have Oscar Chapman as the punter alongside Will Reichard and Andrew DePaula. And I mean, if you've read my stuff, you listen to the podcast, I mean, Ryan Wright has left a lot to be desired, specifically from an accuracy and placement standpoint for multiple years now. Oscar Chapman, I wouldn't say he's had like the greatest punting training camp you ever seen. He's an undrafted Aussie from Auburn, but he held field goal kicks and an extra point on Saturday and did it nicely. Will Riker didn't miss a kick with him holding. And so, I mean, look, I see this as a much thicker competition than what last year was between Ryan Wright and Seth Vernon. I mean, there's not that many weeks left, and Chapman, who would probably be here anyway because of the International Pathway Program, it feels like he really does have a shot depending on how Ryan Wright looks and how he looks over the next few weeks. So that's the 53. It's a bit like I'm not bringing in any outside names. I've done some of that in the past, but just to kind of prevent crazy speculation, that's kind of where I'm at. I mean, it's thick on the line of scrimmage, but if I'm going to be, overloading this roster and having developmental spots anywhere, that's probably where I want to be. Just seeing over the course of covering this league how important kind of those spots are. So, I mean, like the interesting parts for me right now are, QB2, punt returner, kick return, the receiver depth, like which of the who are the odd men out on the defensive line, like cornerback, safety, like what do the numbers look like there? So hopefully, punter, obviously, hopefully that gives you a pretty good feel. Usually do this in writing form, so I can write 1,500 words and get everything off my chest. But it was fun to do it in podcast form for today. At least it was fun for me. I hope you guys enjoyed this. This was episode 104 of the Alec Lewis Show. We'll be back a couple times this week. Again, they're practicing. I'll be out there Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then the final preseason game is Friday in Nashville. I will not be in attendance, but I will be hosting Paul Allen's show on KFAN for 3 hours on Friday morning. And then just want to say, a lot coming at The Athletic this week, not just for me, but a couple stories that have been in the works for a minute that I'm looking forward to unveiling for you guys. And go check out First Resource Bank. They are our presenting sponsor. They have supported this show and they are the motor oil that makes the engine go. And roast me for the wall behind me. If you're watching on YouTube, hit the subscribe button. If you're listening anywhere you get your podcast, we really, really appreciate that. Any other questions you got, toss them in the comments. I'll be available and willing to answer. You could also toss them on Twitter at me at Alec_Lewis. But that'll do it for episode 104, the 53-man roster projection of the Alec Lewis Show. We will talk to you guys very, very soon.